Good morning, podcast listeners. This is Ed Franklin with the Ed Franklin No Limits podcast. This is Raising 10, episode 25. You can always reach me at edfranklin.nolimits at gmail.com or any of my social media platforms. You can hit me up. I have just an amazing guest today, and you're going to really be impressed by this guy. His name is Kirby Rabalais. Is
Rabalais, pretty darn
that close
close.
enough? Okay, sorry.
Good, good work, Ed.
So, Kirby, welcome to the podcast. We had a conversation a few weeks back, and I was impressed with everything about you, and even more so that I just think we hit it off like we could be friends if we lived next door to each other. But you had to go and move to Chicago, and I'm out here in San Diego, so we're not going to be able to walk over to each other's house. So, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Man, Ed, excited to talk with you today. Yeah, really enjoyed our conversation a couple weeks ago, man. And yeah, I think we have a lot of things in common, a lot of common threads there. And yeah, man, looking forward to continuing the conversation this afternoon or this morning, really. Yeah.
So, I want you to tell a little bit about why you're here. We linked up on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
And your story's insanely cool and also disheartening at some level. But you
Yeah.
turned that around and made it a positive, and that's what dads have to do. That's what anybody has to do. But
Yeah.
in this situation, so give me a little background about your foundation and what you're doing and how this you got to this point.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. So, it's I don't want to say a classic, right? But it's turning pain into purpose, and that's of course different for every individual when you look at organizations, nonprofits, trying to change the world, mission-based communities, whatever. So, I'll give you some background on the story. So, my wife and I welcomed in our first son, Harley, in October 2018. Of course, our first boy, totally smitten. And as a dad, as we talked about Ed before, right? Your first son, you're the world for him. You think is
Yeah.
was going to be a football player. He's going to be a doctor. He's going to be whatever, right? And all the aspirations and all the things were just so exciting. And then quickly we noticed that Harley was not hitting typical milestones in month 6. We got him an earlier intervention, which is a state program throughout the United States where they provide OT, PT, speech therapy, and so forth. Started getting into that, and copious amounts of therapy per week. And then by month 9, we had 14 doctors in Harley's camp trying to figure out what was going on with him. Um, then a few months later, COVID comes for everybody, of course. We have our second son, June 2020, and then we're still not figuring out what was going on with Harley. So we went the genetic route. And our geneticist called us on August 18th. I call her D-Day 2020. I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
And she said, your son has been diagnosed with what's called Pitt Hopkins, which is a very rare genetic disorder or a mutation. Harley has a mutation in his for his perspective, and it's the either mutation or deletion of the 18th chromosome, which causes global developmental delays.
Okay.
So nonverbal, and everything Ed, you and I take for granted has been absolutely struggle for Harley. Feeding himself, standing up, walking, talking, you name it, right? He's been an absolute struggle. Fortunate for Chelsea, my wife and I and our family, he's a very sweet child. And he has made great progress through conventional, non-conventional modalities. Just finished full-time first grade, if you will. He's in summer camp, summer school right now, and he's really enjoying himself. And he's just the love of my life, as well as us. He's just, he just lightens up everything. But because of that, because of Harley and everything, our life changed rapidly. And we moved from the city of Chicago to the suburbs. We had to find the right school district for him, the right home for him, etc. We're going across the country for therapy.
Yeah.
And Ed, we're talking a few months ago or about a month ago, I've always been an optimistic, happy-go-lucky person. And because of all the rapid change and everything was just rapid fire, rapid pace, selling homes, therapy, doctor's visits, going here, going to Austin, Texas for therapy. Like it was just, I just fell in hard times. I felt extremely frustrated, very isolated. I felt like nobody understood me. I was not standing in the same rooms as our friends anymore. Like it was just everything. I just questioned God. I just questioned, why Harley, why me, why us, what's going on? Question the universe, whatever, everything. And my health deteriorated. My, marriage was rocky. Career wasn't going great. And, I just one day I just surrendered. I'm like, all right, whatever's up here, God, whatever, help me out, man, because I'm throw me a
Yeah.
life preserver because we are drowning right now. And so And that's when I surrendered, that's when little serendipity started coming into place. The right people started coming to our lives. I started getting back to my old self and a much better health. Chelsea, she's like, hey, this is what you need to do. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you need to go help other fathers, right? Put together a mission-based community to help other fathers. I'm like, oh my gosh. And that I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur and I've always wanted to serve other people, right? And I love helping other people. So here we go. So now we have a 501c nonprofit mission base, and we have some big objectives to help fathers raising children in neurodivergence of any disability, right? On a grand scale. So that's who we are in a nutshell.
So your second child, when he was born, it's a boy, right?
Yes, yeah, Porter, yeah.
Were you concerned? Were you like freaking out a little bit?
Um,
Or were
we
they
we
able to do some kind of testing
we
before he
did
was born?
we did testing and so forth and everything,
Okay.
make sure there was nothing issue. So luckily, yeah. There's no carrier of the gene for him whatsoever. Crazy enough, I'm a mosaic carrier of Harley's diagnosis. So I have a very small, tiny percentage of Pitt Hopkins in me, but doesn't impact me like Harley. So
Uh-huh.
I am the carrier, I am the deliverer of Harley. And it was like a 1 in a million chance, on his in conception, he would, consume, if you will, or it would be passed on to him in conception, and it did. So, I mean, it's just crazy when you think about it. So that still burns me today, if you will.
So, of course, but you didn't know that. It's not,
Yeah.
yeah. But I know it probably sits in the back of your head once in a while and pops up.
Oh yeah.
Your wife, obviously is amazing. So most moms are. How did she deal with this versus you? Was she a little bit more? I don't even know what the word is. Did she handle it differently?
The first 24 hours was so polar opposites. It was so crazy, Ed. So she gets the diagnosis, and like right away, she's like Googling things, she's found the
Yeah.
foundation and so forth. I'm like, that didn't happen. I'm like, no, no, no. I'm like, no. I'm like, whatever. I'm like, no way. I have an extremely important call for my career, like literally in 7 minutes. We get the call. I'm like, I gotta go, I gotta compartmentalize. I got this call. And it was the weirdest thing. And I was like so stoic. I didn't even like, I went numb. I was just like, no. That night, I slept like a baby. It was so bizarre. I was like, I just like tuned it out. I was like, no way. My wife was up till 2 in the morning, contacting people, the whole thing like
Right.
mothers do. Next morning, I'm like, all right. I'm like, that happened. So I called the geneticist back like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock when she got online. And then it was like the floor fell out underneath me and I was going to the middle of the earth. And it was just like so devastating and so heartbreaking. And the geneticist didn't really do a great job on delivering the news. And
Yeah. Yeah.
she's like, expectations are limited and blah, blah. And it was just like, I was hysterical, as you can imagine. I was like, no. I'm like,
Well,
F.
and I've mentioned on my podcast before, there's no owner's manual when you have a child, right?
Yeah.
And when we do have children, usually we're younger and we just go, well, we'll just ask my mom what to do or whatever, you know what I mean? You don't
Yeah.
really know. And now when I had my kids, I had been around babies because of my sisters and my nephews and nieces and that. So I was a little bit, I think, more prepared, but I still wasn't prepared. And yeah, you just don't know. And you're right. You think your kids are just going to come out perfect and, they're not going to have any issues. And now, how does your other son, how does he fit into this picture now? Because he obviously, and if I say something, I don't mean to be disrespectful. If I say something like does he think maybe at some level that why does he get all the attention and I don't get all the attention, or you guys have managed that?
So great point. He'll be 6 tomorrow. And he is an energizer bunny from the time he wakes up to the time he goes to bed, which is great. And he takes up a lot of space. So in a good way, meaning he's loud, he's boisterous, he's
Yeah,
fun, he's nonstop, which is great. So um, the blessing for us is that, you know, he gets a lot of attention just by default,
sure.
just
Yeah,
fantastic. Which is awesome. And so he's also understands that Harley is going to grow up different than him. He's to the point where he doesn't understand it, to the magnitude of the
right.
gravity of it, but he understands that Harley's going to be different, doesn't talk yet, all that kind of stuff. So, but we've talked, we try to spend time with them one-on-one individually and also together, of course, as a family. So we have a very happy home and, we try to keep that going. So, but it is definitely interesting how the dynamics are so different. And now Porter, honestly, is more, he's so much energy and so much momentum and doing everything. He's actually almost more challenging sometimes than Harley, honestly, because of he's just nonstop 24/7. He
Sure.
just wants this. I want this. I need to do this. I got to do this. So it's very interesting. The dynamic has changed, and they also have now a very good relationship. So Ed, I'm not sure if I'm actually answering your question or not,
No,
but that's what I'm
and that was probably I probably could have answered that for you because I after getting to know you a little bit. So just so you know, I have 8 children, and I have a
awesome.
different relationship with every child, right?
So yeah.
And but on accident, right? We just click in different ways. Some of my kids are a lot more like me, some not so much. But we
Mhm.
still have our own relationship that we discuss certain things, and same with the grandkids. I mean, they're all. So I was listening to Mel Robbins one day, and she had this doctor on, and she said, no child grows up in the same household
Mhm.
because you're by the time you had your second child, your life had changed a lot, and he's going to have a different experience than your other child is going to have, right? That's just the way it is, and that's no matter if you have any issues or not. That's just the way it's going to be. Your
Yeah.
economic situation is different. Maybe your job changes. Maybe a lot of things change.
Yeah.
So, but I was
Definitely.
reading on your website some of the stuff. How engaged are people, other fathers that have a similar situation, or doesn't matter what the diagnosis is, they have a child that's a little bit of a challenge. How engaged? How much are you helping them out?
As far as the day to day goes, or
Well,
just
whatever. You must have men contact you and say, "Man, I got this is my situation,"
yeah.
and you guys are the support system for them. And of
Hmm.
course, they're learning through your story, and you're learning through their story too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So, are you getting a
It,
lot of engagement?
yeah, so it's a absolutely. So today we have what we have is we have an inner circle. The inner circle is comprised of a Facebook group and also a newsletter. And that's today. And I'll talk about kind of 2.0, the iteration of Got Forward to 2.0 in a second. But the inner circle is where dads come and we talk about the goods, the bads. We get into the minutia. We get into like ask questions like, "Hey, what do you do in this situation versus this situation?" And then we have virtual calls a couple of times a month, sometimes two, 3 times a month, where those conversations can go at all kinds of different vectors.
Mhm.
We get emotional, we get deep, we make jokes. Sometimes people come with a glass of bourbon with them, whatever. So like it gets real, it
Sure.
gets gritty, it gets vulnerable, it gets emotional. So I'm learning just from them versus learning from us, from myself and so forth, right? In our own stories. And because everybody's different. It's like you said, every child's different, right? Like Mel Robbins said it so well, regardless of circumstance, all these diagnoses are on a spectrum. The kids' personalities are different and so forth. The family dynamics are different. So it's really interesting. And some fathers come in, Ed, and they're like, I'm on my last breath. Like I need a lot of help right now, kind of thing. And that's great. And they're vulnerable and they're open. We can support them. We can provide them tools and tips and things to get through just that day. And then we can start building towards clarity for them, whether that might
Yeah.
be, or, it's like, hey, having some rocky road, but I need a little bit of help. I need a tribe. I need a brotherhood. Come to the brotherhood. Let's support you, right? Because we really believe in stronger men, stronger families. And as the father evolves and transforms and so forth, that family unit is going to be much stronger, if you will.
So this is kind of a cliche, but it's kind of one of these things. You almost have to be grateful for what you've been through, right? Because
Mhm.
if you didn't go through that, you wouldn't be the person you are today.
Mhm.
You or your wife or your children.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I speak to people, or I want to speak to more people about trauma and how
Mhm.
I could talk to somebody for 20 minutes, doesn't matter who. And I'm one of these people that people like to bleed out to me. Sometimes they would start to tell me things that I didn't necessarily want to know, but I have enough patience to sit in the mud with those people and just kind of hear them out. I don't have
Mhm.
and I don't have advice for them. I don't know how to fix their issue, but all of us have been through some kind of trauma. And the people that hold on to it, that are in leadership roles, need to address that trauma first and take care of themselves in order to be good leaders. And you've kind of done that. You've been forced to do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you made this up and said, "Oh, I think I'll do this." You've had to go through this pain to reach a level of
Absolutely.
success. Yeah,
Spot on, Ed. Yeah, the greatest gift you can give to your family is go through a personal transformation.
yeah.
And sometimes, to your point, it goes through trauma, it goes through pain, it goes through struggle, it goes through challenge, whatever it might be. But the way my wife and I look, the lens we look through the world today is so different prior to Harley than now. I mean, to your
100%. I
point,
got to imagine, yes.
yeah, the small things don't bother me at all. I know people are like, don't, you gotta sweat the details. In a neurodivergent world, you don't. I mean, unless when it comes to like IEPs and advocacy and so forth, yes. But when the day-to-day like traffic and stupid stuff and I could care less. It's like whatever. Like I mean, like so it's just the perspective of the world and the simple things really matter the most. And get out in nature with Harley and this and just spending time with him and his little laugh and getting a word out of him every once in a while. Those are like the Super Bowl to us. That means everything. Those inch stones we call them. One of our therapists told us early on, don't celebrate the milestones, celebrate the inch stones. And we do like it's a Super Bowl, Ed. It's like, let's pop over some champagne, let's go. Like, yeah, so um and we're blessed because we would never have that perspective on life. It wasn't for Harley. So in that regard, I'm like, what a blessing because
Sure.
I can have the best date ever just by being with Harley on, at sunset and he's just loving it and he's outside. It's, summertime in Chicago. It's beautiful. Like, I mean, so yeah, to answer your point, long-winded answer, yes.
I love that saying, don't sweat the milestones, celebrate the inch stones. That's all. I think that's what you said. That's amazing. That's a cool thing. I know. And sometimes I have to go, I mean, we're having COVID. It was hard on us. I told you that. And
Yeah.
we're still struggling from that. But every day I'm building, trying to build something, something,
Mhm.
something, and to change our trajectory, right? And I'll do it. I don't have any doubt I'll do it. But definitely I find myself sometimes being a little brat, like a little selfish brat sometimes, getting mad in traffic and things like that.
Yeah.
And I was at the gym this morning at like 5:30 and working out more than kids, half my age. And I'm so blessed that I'm healthy, right? I don't have any knee problems, back problems. I'll be 64 next week. I have no physical,
You look
uh, you
great,
know,
Ed.
stuff. So I'm grateful for that, and I pray for that every week. That just God, just keep me as healthy as I can get, so I can get back to where I was at.
Love it, man. That's great. God, wow. At
And
30,
you're
man.
and you, I was reading on your thing that your son, the second son, has a lot more compassion than maybe the average 6-year-old would have.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. Any sibling raising, getting raised in a neurodivergent household is going to be so much more empathetic and open and compassionate to your point, right? To other children or other people with disabilities. And that person, that child, when they grow up, is going to do great things in the world and change the world in their own way because of that experience. And I see in Harley's camp today, which is amazing. High schoolers and college kids coming back to work summer camps to work with neurodivergent children because how much they get out of it, and how much it makes, how much joy they get out of it and so forth. And their heart just
yeah.
expands, right, with gratitude. And it's beautiful. It's really a beautiful thing.
He's an inspiration to these kids, and he's helping them. What a flip, right? That
Yeah.
this child that has these apparent problems is inspiring, the youth. So I have
Mhm.
took on a part-time job just to bring in tests, and I'm working with the oldest person I work with is 24,
Oh, wow.
and these are kids that are home for college and things like that. And I'm so impressed with these kids. Now I'm not impressed with all kids. They're getting a bad rap, right, in society. But these kids are super intelligent and they're inquisitive and they're asking me questions. I have stories like, dude, you can tell by talking. I have thousands
Yeah.
of stories, and I think they're sick of my stories, by the way. But then they'll ask a question to me, and I'm like, well, they're listening, right? They're kind of listening, and my life
Mhm.
at a lot of levels is unbelievable. Like it's like someone wrote, a bad novel, but all this stuff really happened. And I told you we lost a grandchild in 2024 from leukemia, and right, you just it's and my kids are doing amazing with it, right? They have two other children, and it's
Mm,
I can see that it's improved them as people.
I bet.
I obviously didn't want that to happen, but they really have stepped up and they've gone through some things that you and your wife have gone through, and they've
Mhm.
really, they're just doing amazing.
Oh, man. That's
So
amazing.
that's
God.
cool.
Yeah, man. And Ed, I have to ask you, man, I keep on thinking, 8 kids, like, how'd you and your wife do it? Just, like,
So it's a
how,
blended family.
okay, nice.
Um, my wife, I had three daughters when we met, and she had her two daughters, and then I had three kids from another relationship. And it was just so normal for us. In fact, I miss it so much because I'm not saying we were great parents, but we were good at it, right? We were good on the scheduling and, we were
Logistics.
good getting, we're making dinner for 10 people every day,
Oh my
right?
God, that's crazy. It's crazy thinking about it.
Right. So
Oh my
instead of,
God.
you're making 6 pounds of meatloaf instead of two, like normal people. And then the kids would help clean up. But I tell you where really the value in that was when we were done with dinner just about every night, we would have conversations about how their day went. And remember, these are 10 kids that are 10 years apart. So
Wow.
you'd get obviously different input. And, people do ask me all the time, how'd you do it? I don't know, but it was amazing. I would do it again in 2 seconds.
Wow.
We were just kind of good at it, right? We knew what we had to do. And my wife and I's relationship, because we waited 4 years to get married, which I didn't the first two times, we had expectations that were reasonable, and we knew each other what we wanted out of each other as in a relationship. We
Mm,
had to go to get I got married in the Catholic Church, so we had to get an annulment from my first marriage, and
mm.
she did too. That Although we didn't want the time to go by, it was the smartest thing we ever did because it just gave us time to communicate. The annulment process was dumb. It was dumb. You have to go to these classes that these, you know, people that are married 45 years teach the class. They don't know shit because they grew up in a whole different
Yeah.
generation, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I
Absolutely.
know. And they didn't, and I could have taught the class better than them. But as the time went by, and then we had, then we got served with when my youngest daughter was 11, we found out she was a diabetic, a type 1 diabetic. And that
Mm,
was weird because my kids never had any issues.
gotcha.
And then when that happened, we had to learn about diabetes and, you know, that kind of threw a wrench in the system. But we had so many other things going on. We just did it in stride. I was in sales like you, so I had a lot of freedom with my time.
Gotcha.
I'd work on plans. I could do that at 10 o'clock at night. I'd been to Kinko's at 2 in the morning getting plans copied, because I could work around that.
Make it work, huh? Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, the enrichedness and the conversations and everything you learn from your kids has got to be just you probably learn so much from your kids, I'm sure, just talking with them and like all the different experiences and what they were into versus I mean, that had to be just amazing, those conversations.
Well, so I have a leadership business I'm starting, and I learned all my leadership skills, if I have good ones, from my kids.
I bet.
Right? How are you going to treat them? So I'll give you an example. One day, so we had dress codes back then. They don't really have them now for girls, but we're sending girls to school. So we had 6 daughters at home at one time. And one day, my daughter came down and she had spaghetti straps on. No, it's no go, right? So I got mad at her and yelled her, "Get your ass upstairs and change your clothes," right? And then I started thinking, I could have handled that 100 different ways, right? I could have said, "You know what? You're so pretty. You don't need to wear that to school." And
Mm,
there are rules, so you have to, there's just things as you're growing up, where we do a lot of stupid shit as parents, right?
oh
We're
yeah.
not we're not thinking all the time when we're talking to people, and it's taught me some great leadership skills and how to handle my
Mm.
kids, and other people's kids. We had one of those houses where I'd sit down for dinner and I'm like, where are these four people doing here? I don't even know them. Oh, you know, my mom said it was okay for them to come to dinner. I said, no, it's okay. I just don't even know who you are. So, you know what I mean? So we had that house where there was always a lot of kids. We had a pool, so there was always a lot of kids
Yeah,
playing
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like that.
You guys, yeah,
And
you guys hang.
yeah, so my grandchildren, I've had a couple of grandchildren that had some issues. We lost actually another grandchild
Mm.
almost at birth, right at the end in 2018.
Oh
So
man.
we've had our share of those things that have happened.
Yeah.
But dude, honestly, looking back, I thought it was the easiest thing I ever did was raising 8 kids. There were
Really?
challenges, but I think more so when they got out of high school. I think they pissed
Really?
me off more out of high school than they did when they were there.
You know, because you're like, get on with your life and like just fly on
Some
the
of the
ground.
boys I had to meet that wanted to date my daughters, I wasn't really happy with, but I'm a pretty big guy, so you know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
could
Like
scare them a little.
I
I could make
bet.
them pee just a little bit when they came over.
You come into the Franklin household, you better come correct. That's right. I
Yeah.
love
Well,
it.
the thing was, one of my son-in-laws is now a son-in-law. Back then, he said, "Did you meet Big Ed yet?" And they're like, "No." So I said,
Uh,
"You got to meet Big Ed before you go out with one of his kids."
ooh,
So
that wasn't an easy ticket, I bet.
now I
No.
told one of them to pull up his fucking pants. I don't want to ever see his underwear again because And they actually got married, have two kids, and they're going to close on a house hopefully tomorrow. So
Oh my God,
he
too
turned
funny.
everything around. He's really ended up being a really good citizen, and I love the kids. So
All right, look at you just oh my God, you struck the fear of God in him for sure, it sounds like.
yeah, yeah. Well, God got me some big ass shoulders, so I can scare
That's
kids.
it.
Anyway,
Oh,
but I don't want to get. This isn't about me. It's about your foundation. So tell us how we can get a hold of you. It's got four. Oh, got fortitude. So GOT, the number four, TITUDE.com, right? Or is it .org?
.com, yeah,
Dot
.com.
com.
.com, yeah, thanks, Ed. Yeah, that's it. That's the website. We're on majority of the social platforms. They got Fortitude, GOT, number four, TITUDE. And hey, look, we're excited. We have some big objectives. We have a board of directors. We have an advisory board of fathers raising neurodivergent children, and we're pushing me every day to get better, get the mission better, and support more fathers. So we're excited to support fathers in so many different ways. And that's a father figure, that's a grandfather, that's a male figure, that's a caregiver in your family. So please send them our way. We're happy to support them, get in contact with them, and learn from each other. Join the
Did I get a
revolution.
couple more? How do you fund this? How do you fund this thing? Donations?
We actually last week we just got approved to be a 501(c). So we're going to be grants, donations, fundraising. We're about to do a big push in the next couple of weeks. We're getting all that in a row to get moving. And then of course also we're going to put together our second iteration of the organization. We're going to launch what's called a Dad's Navigation Hub. And that will be a subscription service, membership service, if you will. But it's going to go less from the Facebook and more into this model. And what this looks like, Ed, and kind of the phase one of this is a dad comes to us, so, does an intake form, understanding kind of his background, his demographics, not his demographics, but just kind of situation what's going on. And then he's going to talk to myself or one of the fathers from the advisory board, and then we're going to put him in a pack, if you will, and that pack's going to be a cohort. And we're going to run that thing 3 months, 6 months, depending on what's going on. We'll have probably bi-weekly calls and then more of an all hands call with all the fathers in our packs together. And we're going to do some different things around that and really help lead with transformation. And we're going to use a very proven business model to do so, to really help transformation, have these conversations and moderate and bring in fathers and experts and so forth throughout the process. And then we're going to let all the fathers coming into Got Fortitude tell us what they want as far as courses, content, videos, as we move forward into kind of the phase two, if you will. So a lot going on there. Really excited about it. And that's going to be coming in July, August.
How long has this organization been in business in the works?
Yeah, yeah. So we started really cutting our teeth end of 2024.
Okay, so a couple of years.
Yeah, so I just started talking to people. I'm like, all right, I'm going to see if this is a good idea. I'm like, before we do anything. I'm like, and then I'm like, hey guys, I just started talking to people like, I'm thinking about starting this company called Got Fortitude or, blah, blah. And like, oh my God, that's a great idea. You should go meet so and so. And I'm like, oh my God, well, before you know, I'm talking to nonprofits, I'm talking to foundations, I'm talking to venture capitalists. I'm like, I need to get a website. I need to get incorporated. And then last year, we got real serious, end of last year, at around probably August, September, got a board of directors, and we started pushing, flipped to nonprofit. Now we got the 501(c), and then we got some really big objectives and so forth that really, really help bring support, brotherhood, community to fathers domestically and globally, if you will.
So my next podcast is going to be about sitting in those master classes with other people that are inspired in whatever they're doing, right? So we tend to tell each other that you can't do something because they don't see my vision or I don't see yours or whatever.
Yeah.
And people they have purpose. 1 in 400 trillion that were even born. We all have a purpose in life, and we should all be in a mission. And I know you didn't when 5 years old, when somebody said, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" You didn't say, "Well, I want to have a child that's has an issue and start a." You don't do that, right? This thing develops, and you're like the epitome of somebody that turned uh, an apparent tragedy into something good, right? So I'm proud of you for doing that, and I'm really inspired by you, and I know my listeners will be too.
Thank you,
Um,
Ed.
and I hope we stay in touch. So I
Of
linked
course.
you up with two people. Are you guys
Yes.
meeting?
Yes. I'm actually talking with Teresa and Deborah.
Yeah.
Actually after our call here at top of the hour.
You're going to love both of them. They're a lot like you, right? They're very inspirational. And I just love meeting good people. And I don't have the opportunity enough to get out anymore because of people don't network as much and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And your story makes me want to do my thing more because I think what I'm doing is good for companies and people, and
Definitely.
so I do appreciate that. You're
Oh,
you're the best, man, and I hope we stay in touch somehow, and
of
I'll do it through
course.
LinkedIn or whatever I can do.
Absolutely. Yeah, man.
Is there anything else you want to tell us about your organization?
You know, thank you for, thank you for this opportunity. And I think, look, um, masculinity and all these type of things that men that were ingrained in our bodies and our brains because of the way we were raised or
Mm.
society, or we don't want to look weak in front of our boys or social media and all that type of stuff. All that stuff is a bunch of nonsense. And it's one of the tenets of God fortitude is to show, hey, we don't need to be stoic, right? We can be vulnerable, we can be open, we can be emotional. Hey, we all have hearts, minds, and souls, right? And so I know from my experience, the more we harbor those feelings, resentment, anger, frustration, that just leads to bad relationships, bad fathering, bad marriages, bad friendships. So does that have to be God fortitude? Find your brotherhood, find your sisterhood, find your communities and so forth. As AI proliferates and the world gets wilder or whatever happens, right? Communities are going to be the place I think for people to go and find their tribe, right? So don't be scared to be open up. Look, I hate to be morbid, but we're all going to die at some point. So
Right.
who cares about being judged? Who cares about this? And you got to get over it and just become the best expression of yourself, irrespective of what's going on. If it's either raising a neurodivergent child or you had something tragic happen in your life, whatever. Find that because you owe it to you and your family to have a personal transformation, to have the best life you possibly can while you're still on this planet Earth, right? So I really hope people understand that, what that means, and go find your purpose, go after it, and be the best person you can.
So that was a great statement. All those that's amazing to me. And I tell people, sometimes you just got to sit down in the corner and cry for 5 minutes, and it's okay. Don't worry about it. Just go get it done, and then get back to your business.
Yes, there you
So
go.
let me ask you a funny question,
Yeah.
and and I know you'll answer this right. Were you this nice a guy in 2016?
Um, I've been kind of like
You're a
this.
different man now than you were in 2016.
Definitely, before Harley, I've always been this kind of like, you know, happy-go-lucky, optimistic person, always
Yeah,
kind of type of thing. Now, but I had two really hard years, Ed. I was pissed off, I was frustrated. But now, coming out of that, Harley's progressing, the family's whole, family's happy, we have a happy home, so we're rolling. Got Fortitude's rolling, Harley's making progress, happy home, happy life, and my life is totally different than 2016. Holy cow.
yeah.
So
Well, and one of the things that I remember when we had our first conversation, what impressed me, and I think I told my wife right away, is that you got vulnerable, right? You allowed yourself to be vulnerable to all this pain, right?
yes.
And it's made you a better person. I got news for you. I didn't know you in 2016, but I'll guarantee you're entirely different because these things shape us and they mold us.
Man,
And
it's
we
a great.
have to, as hard as it is to embrace it, you almost have, said earlier in the talk, you almost have to be uh, grateful for it happening, although
Mm.
you would have much rather just had it different. But it's not different. And God decided that you needed to be more vulnerable. And He needed to give you something that was going to bring out
Yeah.
that passion in you and give you some purpose in life.
So great call out, Ed, because I'm still learning how to be vulnerable, honestly. In 2016, I didn't know what that
Yeah.
meant. I didn't have a place for when I was my childhood. I sucked it all up as a childhood.
Yep.
And I didn't ever want to look in front of weak in front of my boys or this or that, whatever, and didn't want to look like a wuss, right? And so it's a great call out, great spot. And yeah, I'm still working through it. I'm a lot better at it now, but lot of ways, lot of progress to make still.
Well, the good news is you're not done screwing up, by the way. I'm just letting you know.
Definitely for sure.
None of us are done screwing up, right? We're not done flipping people off in traffic. I'm not done doing any of that. I'd like to get better at it. I told my grandson the other day, I think I'm just going to start sitting in the back seat and letting you drive me because I can't fucking drive anymore in this traffic. And us older guys, and I'm a baby boomer, so it was my way or the highway when we grew up with parents,
Oh,
right?
oh,
And you didn't cry or you didn't do any of that stuff. You just sucked it up, right?
yeah,
I remember
sure.
coming home from a basketball game once, and I didn't play a lot. And my dad, I was crying, and he's like, "What are you crying for?" I said, "Well, I didn't play.
Mm,
I'm better than those other kids, but they didn't let me play because they have money and whatever, whatever." My dad says, "Well, there's two things. You can quit, but you can't quit now because you have to finish out the season because you took someone's spot. So don't even tell me you're going to quit.
mm,
Or you can get better." So I took a year off and I just practiced, and I got way better than
mm,
these kids. There's no way they could sit me down. And once I accomplished that, I
mm,
decided I don't want to play. I wanted to go to work, get a car, get girls. So I changed my thing. So it was great advice from my dad, right? You can quit or you can get better. And you could have
mm.
quit. You could have quit when you had Harley,
Oh
right?
yeah, sure.
But you
Yeah,
didn't,
too,
right?
man, for sure. Yeah,
All right, brother. I'm going to do an outro. Stay on for a second, unless you got anything else you want to tell us, because
that too, man.
I'm
Yeah,
going to put
thanks, man.
links in the description and everything. I'm going to send you all this. So let me do this outro, and then we'll talk for a second. Again, thank you for joining me today, and Kirby. This guy's a stud, man. You can always get a hold of me at edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com or any of my um, social media platforms. I'm always looking for guests. I'm always looking for topics. So you guys just have a great week. We're like right in the middle of summer right now. So I will have another podcast coming out soon, but I appreciate you listening, and we'll talk to all of you soon.